Start now.
Uh, a very good afternoon to everybody. I welcome you all to the fifth day of our week-long workshop on research methodology. As we all know, this workshop has been organized by IQAC and R&D Cell of Vijaya Krishna Girls College in collaboration with IQAC, University of Calcutta. In the last 4 days, we had very enriching sessions on different aspects of research methodology and statistical analysis softwares by an array of renowned speakers. Today also, we have a very eminent speaker, Professor Maniklal Odhikari. A brief introduction to him. Dr. Odhikari has a teaching experience of more than 36 years, is at present designated as Professor of Economics in the University of Burdwan. Prior to joining this university in 1986, he had served Taki Government College and North Bengal University. Gold medalist in post-graduation, he got his doctorate degree from the University of Burdwan on measuring efficiency in the production of paddy in West Bengal through stochastic frontier analysis. He is also recipient of other awards, recognitions, and scholarships. Dr. Odhikari teaches economics, advanced time series econometrics, not only in the Department of Economics in the University of Burdwan, but also in different universities of India as visiting fellow professor. He has, to his credit, more than 150 papers and 5 books, of which 2 are edited. Other than in several national journals, he has also contributed in Environmental Values UK, South Asia Economic Journal, Social Science Research Network, International Journal of Management and Social Science Research Review, Asian Journal of Research in Social Science and Humanities, International Journal of Economics and Business Research, and also in various edited volumes. 26 scholars under his supervision have been awarded PhD in economics till 2019. He has also contributed a chapter on health and longevity in each of district human development reports of Burdwan, Hooghly, and Purulia, West Bengal. Today, his session will be on time series analysis and application of eViews. So just before I start, we start, just a request to all the participants. Please, as long as our speaker is speaking, you please keep your microphones muted. And any interaction, please do it in English because we have participants from outside of West Bengal as well. Right? Over to you, Professor.
Thank you, ma'am. I may start now. Everyone is ready?
Yes, please start now. Yes.
And practically speaking, ma'am told that I am going to discuss on time series econometrics. But since I know that some of the students are from the college UG doing their UG courses, reviews and the sophistication in time series econometrics may create a problem for them. Therefore, today let me start, take a venturous effort in the sense that let me start with some data up to time. And let me, as a researcher, investigate what problems may crop up. Once the problems crop up, depending on whether autocorrelation or heteroscedasticity or multicollinearity or any others, I may proceed to discuss that thing. Therefore, it's not any specific issue, first of all. The issue will be decided the moment I come across with the problems that is found that are found in the data. Okay, this is my simple approach, and I think in this 2 hours, almost 17 minutes gone. It's not possible to teach everything, but what I can do is simply to incite or create interest in the students, at least to the listeners or participants who want to carry out or carry forward the research in the coming days. Okay, let me start. Therefore, let me present my screen first of all. Suppose this is the data set. Everybody is it visible to everybody? Just confirm someone.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yes,
sir.
visible. Yes.
Okay. It's a time series data ranging from 2004 to 2019. And in the first row, column wise, there are names of the variables, specific variables. And say first column, A1 cell in Excel, it is a year. No, it's not, it is reasonable that it is year since it's time series data. Then column B1, that is B1, this cell contains NEMP. What does it mean? Number of employed people in 1,000. Number of employed people in 1,000. C1, this cell tells us it is PD, means it is price deflator. Price deflator. And cell D1, it stands for GNP in million rupees. That is gross national product in million rupees. E1 states it is NUMP, that is number of unemployed persons in 1,000, of course. And F1 stands for simply NPAF, that is number of persons employed in Air Force. And G1 refers to NIP underscore 14. It means that non-institutionalized people 14 years. Non-institutionalized people above 14 years. Okay, this is the data set, and naturally time stands for the series, it is 1 to 16. This is the data. And what we shall do, first of all, we shall apply some technique in EViews, and then let me look at what problems come up, then we'll try to solve. Okay, therefore let me cross this sheet and let me go to EViews directly. EViews. Now, in this EViews software, in the middle we find one dialog box. It is EViews 10. It is telling me some option. I am interested in opening some foreign file such as Excel. Therefore, click on it. And it is telling me to find out the file name. It is in desktop. Therefore, let me go to desktop. It is file for BKGC College, BKGC. It is data for BKGC data. This data I just now, and I am considering sheet 1, I think, then finish. Yes, it has come. Okay, that is the variable names we have got. Right? Now the data ought to be brought into the sheet, into the review sheet. Therefore, let me do in this manner. Say I select first number of employed people in 1000, then as determinant, say GNP in million years, million rupees, then sorry, it is unchecked. First number of employment, then GNP, then price deflated, then number of unemployed people, then number of people in armed force, then non-institutionalized people above 14 years, then time. These are the variables we have considered. Then right click on it, open as a group. That is, all the columns are to be imported here as a group. Open. You find that this is the data. This is the data. Okay. Okay, just check whether all the variables are here. Okay, year is 2004 to 2019. Number of employed person in 1000, GNP, PD, NUMP, NPAF, NIP underscore 14, and time. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, right. Then what I want to do, first of all, as I suggest my scholars and in course on research methodology, given this data set, what is the nature or feature of this data set is known to me, but my responsibility is to get acquainted with the third person, say examiner or listeners or readers, to get them acquainted with the nature of the data. Therefore, what everybody should do as the descriptive part of this data, you need to present some descriptive statistics or summary statistics, what we generally know. Therefore, what I should do, first of all, let me go to view, this option in views. Click on it. Then drop down menu has come. You just choose descriptive statistics. Then you choose common sample. Click on it. You find that all the summary statistics have been calculated. Mean, median, maximum, minimum, standard deviation, skewness, kurtosis, Judkivera, probability, sum of square deviation, and number of observations 16. But if you, since it is presentation here, I shall not be allowed. I shall not be allowed to uh, do any more further computation here. Any further computation is not allowed since it is a presentation screen. But because it's a result also. That's why what I shall do in order to do some intermediate calculation, I shall go to Excel again. If you click on the corner, then it will be selected, then click on copy, then write it, that is copy numbers as displayed, copy it. Where should I copy? In Excel. I am going to Excel again. Okay. Where I am? I am here. Okay. Therefore, what I am doing, say in a new sheet, I am writing the result. Okay. Now, one thing I like to tell you, since we have seen, it's clear that over the 16 years, the mean value for all the variables are given. It is meaningless to have the mean value of time. You drop this result. It is meaningless. I drop it. It carries no meaning. Min, median, maximum, these are not important thing to issue. To discuss issuable important things. Therefore, one thing which is not given, calculated in views, that is coefficient of variation. Okay. Standard deviation, that will give you some idea about the variability of the data. But it is, since it is not unit free and its magnitude is unnecessarily high, we shall calculate coefficient of variation. Excel will help us. Therefore, insert some row. Insert some row. And here you write, calculation is possible here because I have gone back to Excel sheet. Just you write here, say coefficient of variation, the CV I am writing. You write the definition. That is a person stirs. It is SD as proportion to mean multiplied by 100. Okay. Then we find this. What do you find? We find that least variation is found in number of employment, persons employed. And you find that maximum variation is in number of unemployed persons. Okay. GNP also after NUMP, maximum variation in number of people employed in Air Force, followed by number of people, followed by the variability of GNP. Now, two more things are to be found. Here you find that skewness, it's negative for NEMP, positive for this, PD for PD it is negative, number of unemployment is positive. What does it mean? That is, if you plot the distribution, your distribution will be for NEMP, number of persons employed, negatively skewed. Negatively skewed means that is your longer tail corresponds to smaller magnitude of X. Okay. And if if you think of kurtosis, however, skewness is not zero. Skewness is not zero. It is negatively skewed. So is true for price deflated, is true for number of persons employed in Air Force. But skewness is positive for GNP, number of unemployed persons, number of unemployed persons, and number of non-national persons above 14 years. Yes, positive. Positive skewness, you know that the right area above the beyond the mode is greater than the left hand area under the curve. That is positively skewed. If you go to the kurtosis, you find that all the kurtosis are what? Less than 3. Less than 3. That means less than 3. If it is 3, you can tell it is mesokurtic, the property of the normal distribution. And since it is less than 3, it is the distribution will fit the platykurtic distribution. That is degree of thickness of the curve. It is not leptokurtic. And whether it is leptokurtic or platykurtic or mesokurtic, that is whether positively skewed, negatively skewed, or symmetric, that will be justified by a test. That will be justified by a test. And that test is given by, test statistic is given by Jarque-Bera test statistic. Jarque-Bera test statistic. Just see this column. Jarque-Bera. Okay. This column. Jarque-Bera test statistic. Now, it is natural to tell you something about Jarque-Bera. What it tells actually. It tells, it tests a null hypothesis, which is nothing but a joint hypothesis. Joint hypothesis means whether skewness is 0 and excess kurtosis is 0, or simply whether the value of kurtosis is 3 and the value of skewness is 0. If S is 0, simultaneously with K, if it is kurtosis, that is 3, and the corresponding test statistic will be given by some test statistic following the chi-square statistic. Let me show you if you are interested, just like this. Desktop. Just let me see the file. Just wait 1 minute. This, I think this is there. Just look at this. You find that the null hypothesis, as I told, skewness is 0, kurtosis will be 0. Against the alternative that skewness is not equal to 0, kurtosis is not equal to 0, as not equal to 3. And the test statistic is Jarque-Bera. It is simply this formulation. N by 6, N is the number of observation, and is, as I told already, it is nothing but skewness, and K stands for kurtosis, and chi-square with subscript N stands for that it follows the chi-square distribution with N degrees of freedom. And everybody know the criteria that for a given sample, that is for this sample only, for this given sample, this JB, this value is nothing but what? This value is test, that value of the test statistic, empirical value of the test statistic. And this empirical value of the test statistic is to be contrasted with the uh, critical value of chi-square distribution at 100 alpha percent level of significance. If we find that the empirical value of chi-square is greater than the critical value of the chi-square at the given degrees of freedom and desired level of significance, we shall reject the null hypothesis. What was the null hypothesis? That skewness is 0, lordosis is 3. Therefore, it is very clear that distribution is not normal. The distribution of this observation is not normal. It is not also possible logically, because you know that for normalcy, we need to have the number of observations in at least greater than equal to 30. Unless the number of observations is greater than equal to 30, you cannot expect the observations to follow the normal distribution, that it is not drawn from normal population. Therefore, it is not following the normal distribution. And why I am stressing on or emphasizing on normal distribution? Because there are so many tests, there are so many criteria which requires the fulfillment of the normalcy assumption. If it is a recursive model, you cannot employ the recursive model unless your distribution is normal distribution. However, here is not a problem. We are not exploring that level of test dependent on the normal distribution of the observation. However, this is about the summary statistics. What we can say, therefore, we can say that our distribution of the observations are not normal. It is true for given by the, what do you find? What do you find? You find that it is, say, at 3% level. It is 68, 63, 56, 59, 68. Thirdly, hello? That is, had the probability been, say, 0.05 maximum, then you could have told that yes, null hypothesis rejected. But what do you find? Null hypothesis is accepted. Okay. Therefore, what do you find? Therefore, just now I told, if it is greater than, then it will be rejected. If it is less than, we shall have to accept the null hypothesis. Therefore, the critical, that is, we find that null hypothesis is rejected only at 53% level, here 65% level, here 61% level. Okay, that's what does it mean? At this level rejected. That means at this level accepted. You cannot say like this. Okay. However, now let me go to other things. Go back to issues. Now, what I can do now? Say, let me go back to the other things. Say, drop this. This file may be deleted. This is cancelled. Then again, these are the variables. Now, once the summary statistics have been found, Once the summary statistics have been found, what we shall do? Now proceed to find out the regression estimates. Regression estimates. Once again, you bring back your data as a group. Okay. After that, what I shall do? I shall here consider employment, number of employed person as dependent variable or explained variable, explained by GNP, price deflated, number of unemployed person, number of persons employed in F force, number of non-institutionalized persons above 15 years, and time. If so, therefore, how to regress using time series? You go to process. Okay, you go to process. Click on this. Here you find on menu, make equation. Okay, click on it. You find that equations are given. Even if equation is not given, you just see this equation specification. Specification is format is given. That is dependent variable equal to some constant denoted by C1 plus say C2 multiplied by, that is star notation, multiplied by the explanatory variable. But fortunately, I think it is first of all number of employed persons, PD, GNP, PD, number of unemployed persons, then number of persons in F force, that is non-national person, and type. Therefore, click on OK. Data range is 2004 to 2019. Click on it. Okay. You get the regression line. Now, all these estimators, along with the diagnostic test statistics, should be clear to the researcher. Okay. If you look at the dependent variable is number of employed persons in 1000. Method I have used is simple method, Orion least squares technique. Time is there, sample size is there, included observation is 16. Now what you find actually? GNP. If GNP rises, sign is coefficient of employed persons, coefficient of GNP, that is regression coefficients of employed persons on GNP. What do you find? The coefficient is negative. However, fortunate enough that probability is insignificant, because it is significant at 31% level, which is not allowed. That is probability of committing typo on error. That is probability of rejecting the null hypothesis when it is true. We can commit this mistake only 5 times out of 100 times. We are not allowed to commit the mistake out 31 times out of 100 times. That's why we cannot say it is rejected. It is, therefore, null hypothesis is accepted. What is the null hypothesis? Null hypothesis is that the coefficient of GNP is 0 against the alternative not equal to 0. But the 0 has been accepted means what? Because GNP doesn't explain, but that is not true. You know, if a country's GNP rises, it will bring new sources of employment because of new investment, because of industrialization, different avenues for employment there will be with the increase in GNP. but it says we know reverse will happen. That's not generally, that is result is misleading. These are to be noted because of why such thing is coming. Okay, even if the fortunate thing is that the null hypothesis is not rejected. Had the null hypothesis been rejected, we would have concluded that GNP is important variable and it is reducing the number of employment. If GNP increases, employment will decline. Price reflation. Price reflator. It is positive, coefficient is positive, but probability is again huge probability. And again, null hypothesis rejected. Otherwise, I could have told that is employment and price deflator. That is some sort of indicator price. It is to be used for making the nominal variables a real variable later on. The GNP is in million rupees, I told. That is in nominal quantity. In nominal form, GNP is in nominal value. Okay. Now, this price, that is price and employment, if you can infer, you know the famous Phillips trade-off, inverse relationship between inflation and unemployment. Okay. Same thing is supported. Here what you find, direct relationship between employment and inflation. If inflation increases, unemployment declines. Here inflation increases, employment increases. Okay. But it is not also significant variable. And number of unemployment, if it rises, no doubt unemployment rises means employment unemployment rises, employment declines. Natural sign, it is significant. But later on, there is a fallacy for inclusion of this variable, I will tell you. Then again, if the persons employed in Air Force increases, you find that persons employed in Air Force increases. It will reduce the number of employment. The contradictory picture. Here employment increases, employment in a particular sector increases means employment in gross employment should also increase. Should have to increase. But it is giving the reverse picture. Again, it is significant. And if you go to the NIP underscore this, that is above 14 years of non-institutional person, if they are employed, then it will reduce again the number of persons employed. Though this is also insignificant variable. Time as expected, with increase in time, as time proceeds, you will find employment increases. Okay, later on I will come to inference. What is the problem here? Now, say R squared is very good, 99%, almost 10% of the total variation is explained by your explanatory variable, these variables. 99, more than 99, that is, you can call it 7% is explained by your explanatory variables. So it's true for the adjusted R squared. I think UG student may recall that adjusted R squared is calculated for degrees of freedom. That is, when you calculate the R squared, you tell it the ESS by TSS. And if you adjust for degrees of freedom, you will have to consider ESS divided by what? N minus 1 and or K minus 1. And TSS by n minus 1 and ESS by k minus 1. Okay. Now, if you adjust for degrees of freedom, you can get the adjusted R square, because if you add some redundant explanatory variable in the regression analysis, you will find that always R square increases. And if R square increases, our commonsensical idea is that, okay, goodness of fitting is increasing, it is very good. But adjustment for the degrees of freedom, when number of explanatory variable increases, you can think that degrees of freedom for the residual sum of square, that also declines. And if degrees of freedom declines, it will naturally increase your sampling variance, leading to the rejection of the hypothesis, which should have to be, or leading to the leading to the wrong decision about your hypothesis. That means which is to be rejected will be accepted, which is to be accepted will be rejected due to inadequate degrees of freedom. Okay, this adjustment is taken care of by the adjusted degrees of freedom, adjusted R square. Then sum of errors in regression, sum of squared residuals, that is known. Likelihood ratio, likelihood, that is also depending on what? Sum of EI square, that is when you write YI minus alpha hat 1 is beta hat xi square, whole square. In that, that is the spice or main backbones of the log likelihood. And F statistic is also very fine, very good. That is overall very jointly significant. And if you think of Akai key information criteria, Scores criteria, and Hannan criteria, these are more or less same. I shall tell you something about these three criteria. And Darwin-Watson statistics, it is 2.55 or something, or 2.56 like this. That's at least Darwin-Watson D statistics tells us that what? The value is approximately 3. Value is approximately 3. D is approximately 3. Now, if you set D is approximately 3, that means D is approximately 2 into 1 minus rho hat. Rho hat is the autocorrelation coefficient between residuals ET and ET minus 1. That means 1 minus rho hat is 1.5. Okay, 1 minus rho hat is 1.5. Then rho hat is what? Rho hat is 1.5 okay, that is, you change the side, 1 minus rho hat equal to 1.5, then change the side, 1 minus 1.5, that is minus 0.5. That is negative autocorrelation. There is negative autocorrelation. I will tell you that when time series econometrics, tools of time series econometrics were not developed as it is developed today, people introduced one train term, say this T, this time 10 T, train term, in order to avoid the severity of the non-stationarity. Okay, and that was the logic here I introduced. Since it is time series data, still we find that there is negative autocorrelation. Whether it is significant or not, that is to be contrasted with using the dimension lower limit, upper limit value. However, I am not going there. Let me tell you something about the parameters and the diagonal statistics. Just let me go back again to the Word file. Word file or PDF file. Just this file. You see. So model fitness criteria. For the students, I am telling. R square, you know this, adjusted R square, you know, this is the formula. And this formula has been used to calculate the F statistic and AIC, SBC and this. You see one thing that AIC, SBC or HQC. HQC means Hannan Quinn criteria. The third criterion review we have seen. Actually, all these three magnitudes, three criteria, AIC, SBC, and HQC, they are basically what? They are basically function of RSS by N. RSS by N. And you know that if you use the maximum likelihood technique, if you use the maximum likelihood technique, here we have used least squares technique. And in what you get in least squares, you minimize the sum of squares of error, summation EI square. That is RSS. That is RSS. Okay. What does it mean? That is, and this RSS divided by N and another constant, that will give you what? Likelihood function. That will give you the likelihood function. Therefore, this will give you some spirit, some notion about the likelihood function. Okay. However, what I am telling that each of the three criteria contains three more, that is AIC contains twice K by N, SBC contains K by N into log of N, HQC contains twice K into log of N. N is the number of observations, K is the number of parameters. This criteria, AIC, SBC, and HQC, are nowadays available to each and everybody, But when we were students, we did not have such computer facilities, some softwares. Okay. Then in those days, we were satisfied only simply looking at ESS and RSS and finally TSS. That is, if RSS is very small, naturally AIC is very small, SBC is small, HQC is very small, right? That is what RSS tells you. That is simply told or spoken in all this practice, nothing new. But why these things? We actually explored the robustness of the measurement, unbiasedness, efficiency, these are things. Actually, this adjustment factor, twice K by N in AIC, K by N of log N in SBC, Scott's Bayesian criteria, though here it is written Scott's criteria, and twice K log of N, that is in HQC, that is Hannan Q. Okay. That is HQC is not asymptotically efficient. However, what I was mentioning that these extra three terms are basically introduced, adjusted. Adjustment factor means these are for unbiasedness and efficiency, etc. Okay. And when you find that you want to compare, you have some numerical values of the dependent variable, okay, which are identical. Numerical values of the dependent variable, which are identical numerical values for all estimates being compared. That is, the estimates in HQ, the estimates you want to compare, whether HQC or SBC or AIC, when you want to compare, and all of them give your numerical values of the dependent variable as identical. In that case, it is better to use HQC. These are empirically verified. I cannot tell you why such thing. empirically it is found. These are actually numerical methods. Okay. But in time series econometrics, and when we just carry out linear regression, in most of the situation, instead of AIC and HQC, we just present SBC. And it is the reversion, and I will like to tell you that this is two expression I have written. One is D approximately equal to 2 into rho into 1 rho hat, D being the exact value of reversion D statistics. What you get, this is approximate value, but this is the exact value. And if you expand these, okay, and neglect two terms, one is E1 square and final one is En square, only then we will come across this value. This is popularly used. Okay, and this about the parameters of the equation as well as the diagnostic test statistics. Now come back to my introduction. What I told, I will start with a set of data. I will proceed to estimate. Then let me see what are the problems. And given and the problems being found, we shall proceed to solve it. Okay. Just what I told and what you have got in screen, just check and try to find out the problem. Just give me just 2-3 minutes. I am taking one medicine at 4 o'clock. Yes. I am coming back. Just taking one medicine within 5 minutes. You just see it, and the problems you just try to sort out. Let me pick up the thread of the analysis, just interrupt it for some minutes. What I was telling, that what are the problems? So good is the fitness, and so good is the value of individual value of values of AIC, SBC, and HQC. The value of diagnostic statistics is not so much alarming, though there is autocorrelation. And F, the value of F, that is also very good. That is, it is regression. All the explained variables are properly explained or explaining properly or improperly. That is question. And log likelihood, that has been also negative. It is required. It should be negative. That is also found. All the audience, that is all the desired uh, properties of the diagnostic test statistics are there. But what I am finding, that GNP has the wrong sign, though, and it should have to be significant, but it comes out insignificant. PD, though with right sign, but it has been again insignificant. Number of unemployment, I told you it is a redundant variable. It may be introduced or it may be dropped. And number, that is, it is not so important variable. Armed force, it's the important variable, but sign is contradictory. Again, NIP underscore 14, that is also significant variable. Its sign is, but it comes out to be important variable, but it comes out to be insignificant. Now, overall R score is very high, F is very high, and all the diagnostic statistics are as we generally desire. Now, what is the problem? Is it the problem due to heteroscedasticity? Is it the problem due to autocorrelation? Or is it the problem due to multicollinearity? Now, you know that in the case of heteroscedasticity, in the case of autocorrelation, sampling variances become unduly large. Sampling variances become unduly large. Okay, just in the case of say standard errors, the square root is 10 years. See here, say for time, and compare that is variance will be unduly large. Okay, but unduly large in Wallace technique compared to the sampling variances obtained by some alternative technique, say GLS. This is true for multicollinearity. This is true for heteroscedasticity. This is true for autocorrelation. Then how we can be sanguine that it is autocorrelation or heteroscedasticity, or we need to check, therefore. We need to go in for some other criteria. That is, in the problem of heteroscedasticity, it is basically the cross-sectional problem. Okay? That is a number of forms at the same point of time. They are different. You can expect the variability in the output reflected to the error term. If we want to consider the output of bank, the different banks at the same point of time, you can find out heteroscedasticity problem. That is, we can drop out the problem of heteroscedasticity here. It is simply time series data. Therefore, left is only autocorrelation and multicollinearity. Now, I can also drop autocorrelation if I find that multicollinearity problem dominates. If, though autocorrelation is there, but it has been taken care of by the introduction of time. Okay. And if there is multicollinearity, what is the problem? The classical symptom of multicollinearity is this. that there will be precision, loss of precision. The precision of the estimates breaks down. That is, sampling variance becomes unduly large. Sampling covariance will be very large. You will find that the coefficients are with adverse sign. Adverse sign. You will find there will be a high earth cut. It is very good goodness of fitting. But the most important variable which should have explained the dependent variable will come out insignificant, and that has been found here. Therefore, what should we do? Well, first of all, let me see the entire correlation amongst this variable. Intercorrelation. Before that, because I'll drop this result, let me copy this result to Excel so that I can come back to compare. We copy it and paste in our Excel file. Here I am copying. That is, this is what regression, regression estimates, regression. Okay. Then what I shall do now? Again, this result I am dropping. Not all, but only this. Delete untitled equation. Yes. That's it. Then, other than dependent variable, I will simply consider the explanatory variables. Which are the explanatory variables other than GNP, other than NEMP? That is, let me this open, and what I like to do, other than NEMP, amongst all these explanatory variables, I shall find out the intercorrelation, just to look at the correlation coefficient between them, because you know, if there is multicollinearity, you will find that correlation coefficient in between two variables will be very high. And if there is orthogonality, that is correlation coefficient between, say, ith variable and jth variable, say r xij, xi, xt, that will be very closer to 1. If it is 1, it is perfect multicollinearity. And if there is 0, r xi, xj, correlation coefficient between ith variable and jth variable is 0, then it is case of perfect orthogonality. But neither perfect multicollinearity nor perfect orthogonality exist in reality. And multicollinearity is very natural everywhere. In economics, econometrics, everywhere multicollinearity is very natural. You cannot avoid it. Whether it is tolerable or not, that is the question. Whether it is tolerable or not, that is the question. Otherwise, you will have to coexist with multicollinearity when we proceed to estimate any econometric model. Okay, now choose these variables, that is explanatory variables, GNP, PD, and NEMP, NIP, NPAF, NIP 14, time. These 6 variables we consider. Then we proceed to another menu, that is quick. And from that quick, in the drop down menu, you select group statistics. Come to group statistics. And from that group statistics, you come to correlation. This is correlation, I think. This is intercorrelation between, I think it is correlation, yes. Okay. This is intercorrelation. Intercorrelation. Okay, you find that, okay, you find that I did not, that is, the matrix is 6 by 6 matrix. It is 6 row, there are 6 rows or 6 columns. 6 by 6 matrix. Just copy it and paste in Excel. Again, this is intercorrelation. Okay, intercorrelation. Let me write it. Later on, I may have to come back again. Intercorrelation. Intercorrelation. Okay. Now, what do you find actually? It can be slightly increased in size. All the elements on the principal diagonal simply give you, you know, that correlation coefficient between x and x. That is one. And the cross correlation between xi and xj will be given by what? Among the principal diagonal, above the principal diagonal or below the principal diagonal, you just read. See, if I think any MP, what do you find with GNP? You find a high degree of correlation. That is natural. But I need not take it. Why? Because NEMP is a explained variable. Explained variable. Therefore, this column I block. I need not consider. This column did not be used. Okay. This column is not required. Therefore, remaining 6, you find what? GNP 1, you know. GNP and this, you find that 0.99, high correlation, almost equal to 1. GNP and number of unemployment, it is 0.6. GNP and NPF, it is 0.4. GNP and this, okay, it is 0.9, almost 1. GNP and time, it is almost 9. In this manner, you can find out PD with others, NUMP with others, NPAF with others. Similarly, you will find in most of the situation, the correlation coefficient is very high. That is, there is the possibility that it is a problem of multicollinearity. Okay, that I am telling. Now, that is intercorrelation you need to find out. After that, what do we do? That if I suspect that there is multicollinearity, the natural question is how to detect it. And for the detection of the multicollinearity, there are a lot of tests. Huge number of tests are there. But we shall not discuss all the tests. Perhaps students of the UG courses perhaps may have heard the idea on auxiliary regression. Auxiliary regression. That is, auxiliary regression means, suppose in a set of observations on k number of explanatory variables, say x1 to xk, you find that x1, x2, x1, x3, x1, nk, that is cross, that is or xij or xi, xj, they are very high or not, that will be revealed by this intercorrelation. And you can also test all this. That is, whether this correlation coefficient is 0 or 1, that can be also tested by using t-test. If you use the SPSS, it will give you the ready-made uh, value of T statistic as well as level of significance. However, here that can also be done, but that will be some different issue. But simply looking at, you find that correlation coefficients in between some variables are very high. Therefore, you need not go in for testing. Now, but how to detect the multicollinearity? Theoretically, we can. The most popular method is variance inflation factor. Variance inflation factor. Variance inflation factor is contingent on the estimation of the auxiliary regression equation. Auxiliary regression equation. What is that? Say xi is dependent, assumed to be dependent, and it depends on x1, x2, x3, xi minus 1, xi plus 1, in this manner xk. Then x2 is dependent on x1, now xi. Now you put the value of I equal to 1 to k, only right hand side. The if left hand side is I equal to 1, on the right hand side you are not allowed to take I equal to 1. If left hand side I equal to 2, you are not allowed to take I equal to 2. That means if we have 4 variables, x1, x2, x3, x4, then x1 should be regressed on x3 onto x4. x2 should be regressed on x1, x3, x4. x3 should be regressed on x1, x2, x4, and x4 should be regressed on x1, x2, x3. Now, in all these auxiliary equation, you look at the value of r square. You look up the value of r square, and it can be called ri square. Ri square. Ri square. Therefore, if you calculate Ri square, then reciprocal of 1 by 1 minus Ri square, that is known as variance inflation factor. Because you will find that this variance of inflation factor has come out by considering 2 variances, sampling variances. One sampling variance in the ideal situation, if there is no multicollinearity, that is perfect orthogonality, and one in situation there is multicollinearity. That is, if Bi is the variance, Bi is the estimator in the situation when there is multicollinearity, then variance of Bi, that will be called sampling variance in the presence of multicollinearity. And say Bi0 is the estimator in the case when there is no multicollinearity or perfect orthogonality. The variance of Bi0, that is to be found sampling variance. Now you take the ratio variance of Bi to variance of Bi0. That is called variance inflation factor, and that will come out to be 1 minus Ri square. 1 by 1 minus Ri square. Actually, these are to be computed on blackboard. These are to be computed on blackboard. Now, if there is multicollinearity, you will find as this Ri square increases, say when x1 is regressed on remaining x's other than x1, you will get 1 Ri, R1. If x2 is regressed on remaining x's, you will get R2. In this manner, you will get R1 square, R2 square, and number of variables, as many number of independent variables will be equal to the number of R square. Then you calculate R1 square to Rk square, suppose. Okay. Now, you plot this against that is VIF against the correlation coefficient, and you will find the corresponding line. That line you will be finding that sampling variance is increasing at some increasing rate. We can carry out that auxiliary regression here also. Just see. What I am doing now, uh, once again, what I am doing, I am taking uh, here. You just again find out the auxiliary equations. You drop this variable. Which variable? The variable which is NEMP, because it is dependent. We are not interested. What we are doing? GNP is to be regressed on this. Okay. Okay. Keep the result intact. Keep the result intact, tested in Excel. In Excel. That is, it is here. It is auxiliary regression. AUXIALIA, auxiliary regression, or EG regression. Okay. What is R squared? This is R squared. Okay. I am writing. This is say here, just put against which, against GNP. It is calculated when GNP is regressed. GNP. Then again you go to Excel or if use. Then re-estimate process. Specify what to re-estimate. That is PD is to be regressed on remaining. PD is to be regressed on remaining PD. Okay. Okay. You have got it. That is, you just keep it in Excel. That is most here PD is the dependent variable. PD. And what is R square? R square is this. R square. PD. The R square, and you have found it. It's for PD, price deflated. Again, go to EVOs, then re-estimate. How to what? Now number of employed parts, unemployment, number of unemployment. This is to be regressed. Number of unemployment is to be regressed. Okay. Okay. Let me look at later on what is coming. Okay. Excel. That is, what is R square? Is 0.97. Slightly reduced. Slightly. This is NUMP. 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 What happened? NUMP. 6 equation are required. Then specify, then NPAF. This is to be used. NPAF. R square has again reduced. Has again reduced. Just note down. R square has again reduced. R square. What is R square? 0.72. R square is 0.72. That is what was the variable name? Its variable name was mm, NPF. NPF. NPAF. Then go to reviews. Only two more regressions are to be done. Specify your estimate. One is this. But paste here. NPF. And finally, again, R squared has increased. Okay. The last one. This is NIP underscore 14. 14. 14 and R square is 0.99. Then last one, this is specify, last one is time. Okay. Copy, paste in Excel. Time. Time. Right. Now this is R square, R square, R square, R square, this is R square. Okay. Now 1 minus R square, that is known as degree of tolerance. 1 minus R square, that is known as degree of tolerance. Therefore, do it 1 minus R square. It is this. Okay. 1 minus R square is known as this. Then 1 by 1 minus R square, 1 by 1 minus R square, it is known as variance inflation factor. Variance inflation factor. That is portion starts 1 by this 1 by 1 plus R square. Okay. Therefore, let me copy this. Here, let me write here VIF, variance inflation factor. What is that? It's the same thing. Okay. You just copy and here you press special because I need to sort this data. This data need to be sorted. If I want to sort, go to data, then sort, continue with the correct currents this and sort. Then values, sort on values. Okay. Smallest to largest. Okay. Now this is your what? Coefficient of magnification. That is how much your variance will be increased due to increase in the multicollinearity has been given by this. See, 3 times, 33 times, 130.5 times, 399 times, 758 times, 1788 times. You just plot this in a diagram, line diagram. If you plot it, you just find, just see. I think in textbook, all of you have found such type of curve, such type of curve. What do you find? That is, it is increasing at some increasing rate. This is variance infinite fact. Therefore, no doubt that there is multicollinearity. The problem is here. Here is the problem of multicollinearity. Okay. Yeah, let me see if anything, any summary is there. Uh, sorry. This one. Let me see if in it. Features I have told R square is high, important exponent variables are statistically high, it should be statistically high. Yeah? There is some spelling. Okay. Statistically high, statistically insignificant. I then ask the question, symptoms of multicollinearity are present. Okay. How to detect? This I have told. Okay. Variance infinite factor calculated from auxiliary equations. And one more test which I like to tell you, that is also very important, and that was published in a famous article by Fodor and Glauber in Review of Economic Statistics in 1968. That is actually a test of three tests. One is chi-square test. It measures the degree of acuteness and presence of multicollinearity and its degree of acuteness or severity. Okay. And number two is F test. That is test for the location of the multicollinearity. That is which is the source of which variables are multicollinear. Which variables are multicollinear. Okay. And third one is T test for the pattern, which that is this is a source of the location where the multicollinearity exists. It is the ith variable is the remaining, or that is first variable is the remaining, second variable is the remaining, third variable is the remaining. It is location. And final one is T test, that tests the pattern of multicollinearity. Pattern of multicollinearity, which two variables are multicollinear? Which two variables are multicollinear? It is ij given others, 1 and 2, given 4, 3, 2, okay, 2 and 5, given 2, 3, 4, 6 to k. This is the pattern of multicollinearity. This is done by Fodor and Glauber test. We can also find out different eigenvalue. I think time will not permit. Plus, that will be little bit difficult compared to these things. Now here you should keep in mind that is this auxiliary test of multicollinearity that is given from where it is a test of location of the multicollinearity that should be done from the auxiliary regressions. You have got all R. Therefore, what you have done? There you have calculated 1 by Ri square. That is coefficient of magnification or variance infinite factor. Instead of that, if you write Ri square by 1 minus Ri square divided by the number of parameters minus 1 by number of observations minus the number of parameters. How many number of observations? N minus 1. Here n is 16, that is 15. The n is 16. K, when say GNP was regression remaining 5, that 5. Degrees of freedom is 16 minus 5, 11. This is the addition. Otherwise, the same thing I discussed in the variance infinite factor. Now, this presence, whether multicollinearity is present or not, and if present, how much significant? That has been tested by such this. And here, this law of X, this is not absolute value. This is a design matrix. Design matrix. X is the design matrix. So, what is the value? X matrix here. X matrix is for constant 1. Then the value of other exponent variables. Say if I call it x1 to x6, then 1, x11, x12, x16. then x21 1 sorry 1 x22 x21 is 1 1 x22 x23 x26 in this manner the sixth column will be say what x61 x62 x6 sorry first column is 1 1 1 x62 x63 x66. That is, this will be our design matrix. And you have to convert this design matrix into standardized form. Standardized form means, that is, you take small xi. What is small xi? Capital Xi minus x bar divided by root over n into sampling standard deviation of x. Say for GNP, you will have to GNP minus GNP bar into root over n. What is root over n? Here is 16, that is 4. Into variance, sampling for GNP, the variance, which you have already calculated in summary statistics. Okay, that's why these are to be done. Then you do it. And in this manner, if you consider that elements in the X matrix are nothing but standardized variable, then this matrix pre-multiplied by this matrix, what is the row, number of rows is 5 rows. Number of rows is 5. No, number of rows will be 16. Okay, now 5 variable 16. Therefore, n into k, n is 16, k is 5. If 6 variable, say n is 6. N into 16 into 6 matrix. Now this 16 into 6 matrix will be pre-multiplied by 6 into 16 matrix. Then what you will find? Summation x1 square, first element. Second element, summation x1 x2, summation x1 x3, summation x1 x6. In this manner all. Now these elements are what? Summation x1 square. What does it mean? 1 by root over n, that is 1 by n. Summation xi minus x bar, that means sampling, that is variance of x, that is sx square. And in the denominator, there was sx square, cancel 1. And what is off diagonal? Say summation x1 x2. What does it mean? Summation 1 by root over n, coming out 1 by n, then x1 minus x1 minus x1 bar into x2 minus x2 bar. What does it mean? Divided by sx1, sx2. That is correlation coefficient between 1 and 2. That is when I write that log of x dash x, it is nothing but log of what? Log of the correlation coefficient matrix. Okay. If we say that there is perfect multicollinearity, or ij will be 1, that is, it is the matrix of all elements 1. That is, determinant value will be 0. And if it is the matrix, what? Perfect orthogonality, that is Rij is equal to 0. What does it mean? It means it is the identity matrix. No? 1 all 0, 0 all 1, 0, 1 all zeros, 0, 1 all zeros, 0, 1 remaining zeros. In this one, identity matrix, the determinant value is 1. That means your null hypothesis is whether the x dash x matrix, the determinant value of x dash x matrix is 0, to be tested against the alternative hypothesis x dash x is not equal to 0. This is your null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. Now n is 16, okay, 1, that is minus 15, then 1 by 6, twice k, if k is 6, the 12, 17. And log of 1 means 0. This will vanish. Okay, minus, and that means this will be the value of chi square. That will be what? That will be following the chi square distribution with half k into k minus 1 degree of freedom. That is 6 into 6 minus 1. That is uh, 15 degrees of freedom. Then you contrast this chi-square empirical value with the critical value and proceed to conclude. In this manner, again you calculate that is partial correlation coefficient for the third test. And as you know, R square by root over n minus k divided by 1 root over 1 minus r square follows t distribution with n minus k. Again you compare, you will get the test. Once it is detected that there is multi-collinearity, then what to do? Several techniques are there. Several techniques are there means how to solve the problem. One solution is that drop the variables which are really multicollinear, depending on the variance inflation factor. Okay. Drop the variables which are multicollinear, depending on Fodor-Glauber test. Drop the variables which are multicollinear, depending on eigenvalue test. In this manner, you should be confirmed that there is multicollinearity. Once there is multicollinearity and are sure that which are the variables which are victimizing the model estimates, then you re-estimate. That I am doing. Say now again you go to process. Then specify. Okay, let me cancel this set and come back to the original data, because one data is this yes. Okay, this is our original data. Okay, now you once again open. Okay, this is my original data. Now what should I do? Just look at what I am doing. Depending on my previous study discussion, let me make equation. What I shall do? Just look. GNP, let me divide it by the price deflator, because both GNP and price deflator, they have come out insignificant, but both are the important variables. In this manner, one variable is dropped. Now I told you that number of unemployed persons and number of employed persons, you can keep one thing, because if you know the number of unemployment, automatically you know the number of employed persons. On the contrary, if you know the number of employed persons, then you can know easily. Therefore, this variable is redundant. You drop it. No problem. Redundant variable. But this is important variable. This is important variable. Now, say time. You have found that time with this variable is very highly collinear, almost 0.99. That is the correlation coefficient. And you know that as time proceeds, the person above the age of 14 will also increase. Therefore, naturally, you need not keep it. What I have done actually, I have converted GNP, which was in nominal term, in million of rupees, that has been converted in real term. Now, okay, you find, just now you look at the result. What do you find? R square is slightly reduced, no problem. Okay, F statistic is very good. Likelihood ratio, that is also, likelihood is very good. Still it is minus. Now look at the Darwin-Watson statistic, it is 1.65. What does it mean? Approximately 2. If Darwin-Watson statistic is 2 approximately, that means rho hat is what? Rho hat is 0. Okay, because 2 into 1 minus rho hat, that is Darwin-Watson statistics. Now here I would like to tell you the role of Darwin-Watson statistics is important in the detection of autocorrelation, as well as it is also important in the model specification. That is, in our previous model, I told you that the degree of autocorrelation is there, but it is not so serious. Hmm. But model was proper was not properly specified. That was indicated in that issue, in that magnitude of the diagnostic statistics. But here you find it is 1.65. Round figure you can easily write it 2, approximately equal to 2. D is also approximate value. That is not exact value. Therefore, again, look at the coefficients. Say real GDP. Real GDP. What does it? GDP, real GNP increases, your number of persons employed increases, and it is significant and 1% level of significance. Now, number of persons in Air Force employed increases. Okay, if it increases, then if this employment increases, naturally, this employment will decline. Actually, here you should keep in mind the variable considered here, that is, if you calculate on the left hand side, say y equal to x1 plus x2, then on the right hand side I am not allowed to increase, I am not allowed to use x1 and x2, because already in y this is contained. Now, when I think of number of person in Air Force, that is, here the variable, when I manipulated the data, there this amount was reduced from the number of employment. Okay, it is also significant. Number of persons in this, naturally, above 14 years if increases, legally it is not right. Employment should decline, because those who are above 14, it is also, when the number of employed persons was calculated, these two was reduced. Okay, it is also significant. However, this is the result. All these variables. However, I told you that these data are simply manipulated data. Therefore, no need to look about the chastity of the data, because economically that may not give you the meaningful result. But my target was to tell you what we shall do if there is problem of multipolarity. Data as data dictated, we proceeded. Otherwise, we did not have any some specific point to start with, that I told in the beginning. And you can also solve the problem of multicollinearity by using the pooling technique. Pooling technique means you can have two sets of data. You first of all use one set of data, get the corresponding estimates, and use those corresponding estimates to recalculate the variables, recalculate your observations, and then your dependent variable, say if you write y equal to, say, alpha plus beta 1x plus beta 2 x, beta 1 x1 plus beta 2 x2 plus ui. In that case, you know, by some method, say by using cross section data, you have used, first you regress y on, say, x1. x1 is say income, y is savings. Then you have got the estimator of beta 1. Okay. Once you get that estimator of beta 1, then you will do this y minus beta 1 hat x1. That is, you recalculate this observation. Say it is called y star. Then you regress y star on remaining, that is alpha plus beta 2 x2 plus ui. Now you will get the value of beta 2 hat and alpha hat. Now this is called pooling technique. By that manner, sometimes, because x1 and x2 are multicollinear, therefore you drop one variable first, estimate the remaining parameters, then proceed to estimate the parameters which was dropped. This is one technique. Sometimes, as I have told just now, that dropping some variables which appear to be redundant may be dropped. But in 1973, there was a famous article published in Econometrica written by Feldstein. You will find Feldstein pointed out by dropping some variable which are suspected to be multicollinear will get you trapped into the problem of specification bias. And what will happen? It will happen that there will be specification error. Now, also, you may have the smaller sampling variance, but at the same time, your resultant estimator may be biased. Now you will have to decide what to do. That is, there is a trade-off between bias and variance, which is desirable to you. Unbiased estimator, but high sampling variance, or the biased estimator, or lower sampling variance. This is Feldstein method in Econometrica 1973. And again, what I like to conclude by telling what I like to conclude, that the problem of multicollinearity doesn't affect the problem of prediction. The problem of multicollinearity doesn't affect the problem of prediction. If the values for which you are going to predict your dependent variable are also following the same pattern of multicollinearity, provided this is the condition. Okay, say you are predicting y on the basis of x1, x2, x3. The observation on x1, x2, and you know that there is multicollinearity you have measured. What is the pattern type? You will have to consider. And now you add some more data, and if you predict this y on the basis of the values of x1, x2, x3, which also maintain the same sort of multicollinearity, that there will not be problem. Actually, to conclude, there is a famous book by or statement that much ado about nothing. That is, you have nothing to do with multicollinearity. You have to tolerate only. But should we tolerate? That depends on your tolerance factor. That is, if you find that this VIF is increasing at some increasing rate, say, but if you get, yes, there is multicollinearity, but it is not increasing like that, not decreasing, but not increasing, even if it is increasing, it is not increasing at some increasing rate. As so long as you can tolerate your multicollinearity, proceed. You cannot avoid multicollinearity. Okay, this much I can tell you. Nothing new to add, because so many things we have to talk on, but so little time we are getting, and I become so fast also. Otherwise, not possible. No? Now, out of 38, most of them have departed. Huh? Okay.
Thank you, Professor Adhikari, for this wonderful session. And I think those who are here found it very helpful, because someone in the chat box has also written that it is very helpful for her. And for all your information, that the recordings of these sessions will be found in our official YouTube channel after the week-long workshop is over. And you can hear again there, because sometimes maybe it's you can just miss some things while the session is going on, but if you listen to it again, you'll find more questions, right? So is there any questions on what Professor Adhikari has taught us today?
Yes, can I go ahead with the question?
Yeah, of course. Please go ahead and ask.
Good evening, sir. I just want to ask the question that many a times I'm trying to apply this technique, but the first problem I encounter it is the data is not normal. So then I'm trying and I'm trying to fit that. Is it possible that I can do something and I can make the data normal?
You can do. Just if you find that data are not following normal, but there is a famous theorem that as n tends to infinity, infinity means not conceptually, theoretically infinity, conceptually. You
Hmm.
just, if you work with data on time series, you should definitely have to have at least more than 30 data points, 30 or more than 30. Otherwise, there is a problem because expert or examiners, they will put the question, how can do that if it doesn't follow the normal distribution?
Hmm.
That is only one way is to uh, increase your number of data points. This is simple answer. Otherwise, there is no standard answer in literature. At least I don't have found. I did not have such any information that this can be done, that can be done. Simply increasing theoretically and practically, increase your data size.
So only way out is to increase the sample size.
Yes, yes, yes. Specifically, if you do the time series work will not work at all unless you have at least more than 30 data, at least.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the answer.
Any other questions? Please feel free to ask. I think that's the problem because if the participants listen to the session once again, more questions will pop up. But right now, nobody's asking anything else.
They know if they know my email, they can write to me through email also.
Okay, so participants, you can always contact Professor Odhikari and you can get his email from us. Or, sir, please, if you can share your email over here, then you can later on maybe get in touch with him.
And if they want to talk to me, then since so many fake call comes, often on so many
Uh-huh.
fake calls. Therefore, just write one message. This is my introduction. I do this. I would like to talk to you. Then definitely I will talk. Hmm.
Thank you so much. So that should be very good. So, shall we call it a day, or is anybody going to ask anything else? Or otherwise, we will end our session here. Uh, anybody's asking anything? I can't hear. Okay, fine. Then
And
we.
Didi, I think Mamta Brahmavat is asking something. Are you asking something,
No, no,
Miss?
I have already asked.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, she
Thank
has
you.
already asked. Anybody? I was just inquiring whether anybody else was going to ask something, or you can always contact Professor Odhikari later on. Okay, so thanks a lot. Thank you, sir, and thanks to the participants for being with us. And so I think, Amit, we should call it a day and we'll stop for today. Okay. So see you all tomorrow. And thank you again, Professor Odhikari.
Okay, welcome. I can leave, ma'am, with your permission.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir. We have finished today's session.